Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. We are here starting off the second season of the All I Do Is Win podcast with Pierce College. Can we put our hands together for that? Yeah. This is a really dope experience to be a part of, programming that's meant to not just be a podcast as we know podcasts to be today, right? A lot of times they're known to be social spaces, entertainment spaces, but this is an educationally aligned space to give our students, to give our community a pathway to get information that if it was just in a workshop, they probably might not have listened. If it was on a Zoom call, they probably might not have joined, right?
Right.
And I think that this space this season is going to be so much more practical because we're going to dive deeper into subjects around the holistic wellness of not just men, but women. Everybody is going to be a part of this. I could say it like this: everybody's going to get some.
Everybody's going to eat.
Everybody's going to eat. Absolutely. Today, I absolutely am privileged and honored to be in the room with two phenomenal men of impact, of power, of influence. And I'll let you introduce yourself, please. You can tell your full name and what you do. Yeah.
You got home court advantage?
I got it. Stuart, Pradia, originally from Houston, Texas. I'm the head men's basketball coach at Rutgers-Camden.
And you were featured on the last episode in season 1.
That was the last
returning.
episode?
It was the last one.
Okay.
Returning.
Okay.
All right.
I'm Moses Parker. I spent 14 years in higher education, and currently, I would say traveling the world, traveling the globe, but not the globe yet. But speaking in colleges and high schools, inspirational, motivational speaking, and just looking to impact the lives of young people. Excellent.
So today we have a topic that I'm really excited about. And normally I'll have an anecdotal story that I'll start off with talking about that kind of leads us into the discussion. But I think this discussion is so rich that we don't even need that, right? Today we're talking about the intersection of mentorship and vision. Okay. The intersection of mentorship and vision. But we're going to start off from a unique perspective on this, right? Because I think a lot of times when we talk about mentorship, there's some words that have stigmas and there are some words that are presumed to always be positive, right?
Right.
When you hear the word mentorship, it almost is like gumdrops and rainbows. Like this must be a good thing. But I want to start off talking about this a little bit differently through the lens of bad mentorship. Bad mentorship. So either one of you can hop in and just start talking on this, but what kind of experience have you ever had with a mentor or seeing a mentor who literally was horrible? Like and I know, and this is the funny thing, right? And I'm gonna say this to our viewers. Everybody says they need a mentor, right? But everybody knows someone that they do not want to be their mentor. So I want you to, think back. I don't know how far you got to go, but you don't have to say no names. We don't want any names dropped.
I was going to say that because you never know who's going to see it.
We don't want any names dropped. Do
attempts count?
Yes.
What I've encountered a lot in my profession is people trying to mentor me.
Let's go.
And it's not something I asked for. I think that can be a little forced. I think when those relationships are like natural and fluid, it's really good. But it's sometimes it feels forced, and then if you don't take them up on something, then it comes off as offensive. And I've encountered that. I don't think I've had as many bad mentors per se, but I've encountered people who it's like, oh, let me mentor you, and I'm like, I am not interested in. I don't. No, I don't like who you are. Right. I'm not interested in being like you. Just not necessarily good or bad. It's just that's where I'm not trying to go. And having that, it's not awkward, but I think that's been my experience with bad mentors.
So I'm gonna jump in on that, right? Because that's wild work for someone to say, "Let me mentor you." Right. Like that's actually, it almost sounds predatory. Like the nature of mentorship is one where the mentor is the value add, right? So for the person who's supposed to have the value to say, let me give you this value. Please believe me, I have value and you want it.
Right.
That sounds crazy.
And I learned something years ago, man. Early on, it was mentors never chase mentees.
Yeah.
Right. It's always the mentee who sees something in you,
right,
and say, I need to connect with that person. I would like to be mentored by that person. And so it is a red flag when someone says, I want to be your mentor.
right.
Right. And even if there's a desire to mentor someone, I think you have to just open the door for the person to kind of see that value and for them to kind of initiate that relationship. But like you said, it's so wild work when someone sees you, and then you kind of wonder, what's your motivation?
Right.
Absolutely.
What's your motivation?
Yeah. And I think I think to your point about mentors, choosing the mentee is so critical. And I stand on that 1,000%. And I know that there's somebody who's offended right now because they're mentoring someone who they pursued.
Right.
And there's someone who thinks that that's the way mentor-mentee relationships work. But what I think actually happens is that's how parasitical relationships work, because what you're offering is a opportunity without a personal pursuit, meaning that what I have within me is I'm willing to give to you if you do certain things for me. So it's a quid pro quo socially that may not necessarily have like firm boundaries from the standpoint of, hey, once I do this, you got to do this.
Right.
But then there's certain things that they will ask you later on down the line. Hey, I expect you to show up to this event. Or, hey, there's this opportunity. I think you should take it. Then all of a sudden, it's almost as if you're indebted to them. And because they're your mentor, now you have to do this because they've been mentoring you for this particular point in time. Any thoughts on that? Yeah.
I actually feel that there are some outliers out there where there are some unique cases, right? Particularly, there could be some unique cases where as a mentor, the perceived mentor, can see value, right, in a potential mentee and kind of pursue to a certain degree, right? Or kind of, and so I don't want people to feel like we're just demonizing if there was a pursuit, because I believe there are some times when a relationship can start where the mentee had the mentor had the vision or had the ability to say, there's something special and unique about this person, and I want to use my unique skill set to be able to help get them to the other side.
I was going to ask you guys what you thought were like healthy versions of that, maybe healthy versions of the outlier, or just in general, like healthy versions of mentors and mentees connecting. And I'm thinking of where maybe it's a mentor where it's, I see myself in this person, but I think it should just be gentle. Like I think, you know what I mean? Like it should just be like, hey, I should, if you want, cool. Like I've got this little piece of information, and it's almost like, oh, okay, thank you. And then maybe that person sees the value in that. It's okay. Let me get more of that. But what do y'all think? Sorry, I'm asking questions. I know you the question, but what do y'all think?
I support that. That's a good question.
You know what I'm saying? Like
That's
it's easy to talk about like, all right, what's the bad version of it? But like I think we do that a lot in society. Like we point out deficits as opposed to, all right, well, how could it be better? You know what I mean? How can we, or what's the appropriate way, or what ways work? Because, not everything works for everybody else. So
Yeah. No, I appreciate the reframing, and I even more so appreciate what you said, Moses, about like sometimes it's not always in one direction. And I think sometimes the perspective, because mentorship looks different based on the infrastructure, the community. I'll even go as far as the culture that you come from, right? So I would never want to like paint a broad brush on something that could have a nuance. So anybody who was, feeling some type of way,
Our bad. Or it's they bad.
Yeah. Hey, we redact that. Right. It's going to be in there, but we're redacting that now, right? But the fact is, I think sometimes our experience, right? I'm the founding director of the Center for Male Engagement, right? So I'm in a position of power over or for in support of men, people who are already men. When we talk about college, like as soon as you hit 18, you're a man in society, right? And one thing that I don't believe is really practical is the idea of mentoring from the standpoint of hovering over a man.
Right.
I actually like the idea and the model more consistent with coaching, where I feel like you mentor children, but I coach a man. Yeah. Now, we may call it a mentorship, but I'm not going to give you as much hand-holding when you're of age, when you're of responsibility, which means that there's a certain pursuit that you have to show me before I'm willing to pour out and give time. I will give my time to a gentleman who shows that he's ready to work, ready to go get it. He's working through his demons, working through his traumas, and is trying to get to the next level. You don't have to be perfect, but you have to be pursuing. Yeah. And there's a lot of times when someone's not pursuing, and then a mentor comes and is like, hey, please follow me. And to me, that's just problematic. But that's only in my realm, because I think that a lot of times when you try to force someone, those be the students who end up leaving the institution because they never were academically prepared. Yeah. Those could be students in the community who end up having poor outcomes because sometimes you end up being a crutch for those students, those young men beforehand. And I'll even go as far as to say that every person who needs leadership or who needs to be guided aren't always young. There are some grown adults, 30, 40, 50, 60 years old who has never got.
Bro, I see it with parents all the time. That's the most disappointing thing. Sports is obviously a microcosm of like life and just our society. But what you see is people talk about, they say it all the time, the kids are different. Like, these kids aren't raising themselves, because when you see their parents, I asked a friend of mine, I was like, when we bring recruits on campus, if they show up late, like they're coming with their parents and they show up late, like that's an immediate red flag. It's like, they probably not prompt because the people raising them probably not prompt. But it's parents fighting in public, parents getting on refs at 6-year-old game. It's the adults that are driving this thing, man. Like it's wild.
Yeah. It's the environment that they're coming out of, and we see that often. Like in our, it's one thing I used to pay close attention to is, to your point, it's like those behaviors are learned, right? So it's the environment that I'm coming out of that being late is, I'm accustomed to being late, right? And so then as a coach,
right?
So now you see certain behaviors, so now it becomes part of your responsibility to a sense, in a sense, to say, I have to help him understand. I have to help this young man understand that being prompt is a leadership competency. It is something that needs to be developed in this particular space, because you're seeing where they didn't get that.
Right.
And so to the mentoring piece and the coaching, it's a lot of times helping individuals receive some type of support or guidance that they never had.
Yeah.
That they never had.
It's sharing information. Like that's really what, I mean, we could technically, I think, we talked about it on the last episode, like mentoring each other. You know what I mean? It's
absolutely.
Just, you know things that I don't know, I know things, and vice versa. Yeah. And so I think a lot of times we're really good at competing, but we're not very good at collaborating. At least in our community that I've seen.
And to that point, again, too, it's just funny because sometimes your mentor is younger than you are.
Yeah,
it's just indeed. That they are doing something, or they've accomplished something that you desire to accomplish. And so sometimes even understanding that age doesn't change, the scope. It really depends on, has this person accomplished something that I'm trying to accomplish, and can they help me reach my goal? Yeah. So you might be 40, but your mentor might be 35.
Yeah.
Right? And we have to be okay with that. That's when you have to really look in the mirror and say, this is not about ego. This is not about pride. It's about understanding that there's somewhere I'm trying to get, and there's a person in my life who may be younger than me. However, this individual can help me get to that particular space.
What you just said made me think back. We were talking a little bit before the session about previous work experiences, and I was talking about back when, I'll bring you guys up to speed, back when I was about 19, 20, 21 years old. I used to work at Newark Liberty Airport, believe it or not, right? And I was what's called a load captain. So I would manage the loads of the packages that were going into the FedEx planes and operate the machines that would bring it in. Now, it was a large team of folks. We would rotate responsibilities, but it was all at the airport. And there was one time I was sitting in the belly of a plane. We were waiting for the freight to come in, and we were sitting around, and there were these guys who have been working in that particular plane for a long time, and they were talking like they were the OGs of the bunch. And I remember like it was yesterday. And one of the guys said, "Hey, you young guys, you don't know what it is to really work. He says, I got over 20 years experience in this thing, in this belly. I got over 20 years experience. And I was sitting here and I was like conflicted because I'm like, everything that's required to be done here, I've only been working here for 9 months.
Right.
Already.
But I've learned it.
Yeah.
And I never understood this until I heard Myron Golden say this. And he says, there's some people who feel accomplished in the amount of years that they've done a job. And they'll say, I have 20 years experience driving a bus, or I have 20 years experience in whatever role. You could, case in point, put whatever role you have in that spot. But actually, you have however many months or years experience it took to learn the job, repeated over time. Right. So if it took me 6 months to learn how to do that job, and you had been there for, let's say, 20 years, you have 6 months experience repeated over 20 years.
20 years. Yeah.
That's not a flex.
That's not a flex.
That's
it's not a
years,
flex.
Bro.
That's not a flex.
That's 40 years.
That's not a flex at all. And I think to sometimes, we can look at our time, we can look at our energy that we give to different spaces as if just time alone makes us a voice of reason. Yeah. But I think to your point, someone younger may have done more with their time and may have accomplished more, which makes them someone who has some achievable wisdom that you can extrapolate and learn from if you're humble enough to do that.
Yeah. Efficiency, man. Like I remember I had it was a terrible experience, but I had a head coach who I would handle the game plan. So I would, look at the other team's plays, and it would take me, hour, 2 hours. And he's like, well, why aren't you in the office for, this many hours? And this other guy did. And I was like, yeah, but we got to the same point. Like, you mad at me because it took me an hour?
Right.
And it took him 10 hours? Right. Like, you should be praising that. Like,
praising that,
good job. All right, I need you to do this other thing that you can do quicker.
Right.
And it was just kind of like, all right, that's one of the, I won't say he was a bad mentor. He was not my favorite head coach to work for, but I just think it was one of those situations where, who said Obama the other day? He was talking about like when you get in these rooms, like don't be intimidated because like everybody's not all that. Y'all remember Combat Jack?
I remember the name, but I wasn't on that.
He is like the OG podcaster as far as I know. He passed, I forget when he passed, but he talked about going to, I believe he went to law school at Georgetown, and he just remember when that was his first time in a space like that. He was just kind of like, wait, these are people that run the work? Like, he was like, they ain't got no flavor. They ain't got, and he was like, okay. Like, I'll be all right. I think opportunity is, we talk about that and we kind of pivoted, so you got to get us back on track. But it's really about opportunity. Like, when you have opportunity, you get to see who you are. You get to see what you can do. Yeah. And for a lot of us, like, it either takes a while to get that opportunity, or maybe some people, like your boy working 20 years, like, he didn't even recognize what that opportunity looked like, or didn't have the capabilities to take advantage of said opportunity. But yeah, man, like it's being efficient. We were talking about being agile earlier, in all ways, whether that be mental, emotional, but also physical. That'll help you on the court, obviously.
I had a thought though, man. And I know we probably all around
spin the block.
That's all right. Spin the block. Do your thing, bro.
You said something about the coach, right? It took you an hour to do something. It took the other person 10 hours. Your coach came to you, correct?
Yeah.
What happens when you've outgrown the capacity of your mentor?
Ooh. You gotta move on. That's all it is. That's that rub.
Right? What happens is that rub,
the student becomes the sensei.
Right? Yeah. Right? What happens when you've outgrown the capacity? Yeah. And I think as mentors, sometimes you have to realize that there's only but so far you can take a person. Yeah. And those relationships can expire.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? I handled it poorly, admittedly. There's been a couple of situations where, and I think it's something natural just in like my profession. Like we always, as an assistant, like your goal is to be a head coach. And so you always think, I can do. But you don't realize what it takes to be in that seat because there's some things that just can't be explained. I'll never forget my first game coaching. There was a minute, I don't know how long it was, but there was a short period of time where I can remember kind of being an out-of-body experience, seeing myself like, wait a minute, I'm really in charge right now. Right. The game's going on, and I'm like, and I had to like snap back out of it. But I think about my relationship with that, and I think I could have been a much better assistant. Whereas like recognizing, okay, I probably know a little bit more than him. I probably am better at some things. Rather than get frustrated by that, let me fill in the holes. Let me gently, manage up, if you will. I think that would have been a much more mature way to do it. If I ever have that opportunity again, that's exactly how I'll do it. But, maybe everything's a learning opportunity. You know what
Absolutely.
I mean? So,
Absolutely.
Well, let me salute you first for your transparency to openly on the pod,
Yeah,
share
man.
areas of opportunity to improve.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
Always.
Yeah,
always.
yeah. Nah,
I think that's important, man.
Yeah, absolutely it
to
is.
be able to show time and vulnerability in times I didn't handle that the right way.
Yeah.
And then to kind of show, because one of the hardest things for many people is to just admit I didn't do it the right way.
It's hard.
Yeah.
Now, it is hard for people to say,
My bad.
my bad.
My bad.
I apologize.
It's crazy.
Wait a second, but let's pause for a second. Why?
Pride.
Why?
Pride. It's pride. It is. It 100%.
Insecurity.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Because for me to admit that I was wrong, it's sometimes we see it, or that individual may see it as a slight on their value, right? It's a dark spot in their value and how they perceive themselves. But it's pride, man. At the end of the day, that pride and insecurity.
We've gotten to a point in society where it's like all or nothing. Like you either are the greatest thing ever or you suck.
Yeah.
And it's like, if I admit I was wrong or if I admit I made a mistake, well, I suck and I don't want to do that. So I got to figure out a way to finagle. And it's like, nah, bro, like it's okay.
Yeah.
Like it's okay to make mistakes. Everybody makes mistakes. So I wish we embraced that a little bit more. For sure.
Absolutely, facts. I support that. I support transparency. I think we've demonstrated that a little bit today, right? I think we've redacted something that was said.
Did we?
Within about 30 seconds or,
Y'all did.
That's on y'all, man. I ain't gonna do
Hold
that.
on. Wait a second.
That's on y'all.
So it's on us. So he humbled himself out of that equation.
right.
Yeah, for sure.
He has his own lane.
sure,
I'll be humble on my own terms. Is that right?
wasn't on me, right?
Is that
That was
right?
yours.
But I want to circle a block again, right, to what you mentioned about time frames on mentorships, right, and how sometimes a mentorship is for a season. I think that's more on the mentor side, but also the mentee side, where sometimes a mentee can be embarrassed or feel pressure to maintain a relationship when they've outgrown that pace, and it's almost like, man, but they've done so much for me in the past, or that level of guilt that you'll feel because you've gotten to a place. Yes. Yeah. And I'll even throw into the mix, like sometimes there's family members or friends who you might have grown up with who knew you from a certain age, right? So they knew you when you were 12 years old, right? 13 years old. So because they were 18 or because they were in their 20s, they were naturally a leader to you. Like that's like a big cousin will always be a big cousin. Even if you're 50 years old, you're not going to not be a big cousin, right? But is it possible that your growth, your expression, your maturity can outpace the life of someone who may have met you in a season where you weren't in that spot?
For sure. I've got it's funny. It's not as intellectual as we're talking about, but I have a
You think
cousin.
we intellectual right now?
Huh?
You think we?
Y'all, listen, bro, that coat is intellectual. I'm serious. I'm serious.
This is
No.
That is
It
a shot. This
It
is, but I have to put some respect on this.
That is an intellectual hue as well. So you know what I mean. I got a T-shirt on.
Somebody bring out, we dark skinned. We can do that.
Right,
That's
right.
fair.
And-
No, yeah.
and listen,
I'm trying to.
This is texture.
Listen,
You know what I mean?
What is that?
We have diversity of texture in the room, right? This is Chewbacca. Chewbacca Reloaded.
Listen, I'm with it. I've got a young.
And I support the sherbet too.
Is that that's wild?
I support the sherbet.
Sherbet. See, I just
Wow.
listen.
That could actually go on the back of it. Support the sherbet. That would go crazy.
That's your man.
That would go crazy. It would. That's actually a flex.
That's my
a
bad.
flex.
That's my bad.
I took
us here. That's my bad. I apologize.
Wow. That's a salute in all ways. But please, bring us home.
I have a younger cousin.
I feel like you're the host right now.
No. I'm just bringing this back. I'm an assistant host.
Hey,
You know what I mean? He is like fought professionally many times. He has done MMA like tons of times, but in my head, that's still my little cousin. And I know in my brain, like if we ever got into a fight, he would put hands on me.
Right.
But in my brain, that's still my little cousin. You know what I mean?
Never stop being little cousin.
Shout out to Mike the Truth, man.
Hey,
But,
nice.
Yeah, but it's just one of those things where sometimes it's head over heart. You know what I mean? Like you may grasp something and understand it, but you're like, I don't really want it to be true.
So I love that we kind of spoke about that, right? Like the perspective of seeing someone who you menteed, or who you mentored, let's say, right? You mentored them, but now they've grown, and you understand that there's a tension between recognizing the fact that they've outpaced you in a certain space or a certain way of life. Even though we just acknowledge that, what is a practical way for a mentor, for a leader who is still a leader, right? In your own right. You're still professionally accomplished, still personally accomplished, socially relevant. What is a practical way for them to transition that relationship holistically and in a healthy way to kind of steward that process rather than be a passenger to that process?
Go ahead.
No, I think, I mean, there's many different, I think there's no one right road to take to them. I feel like there's, the uniqueness of the relationship definitely plays a role. But I think that when you consider mentorship, mentee relationships, you can have more than one mentor, right? So we understand that part. But if I am here to help guide you to be, I don't know, it's real estate. And I want to teach you the game of real estate. Once you've learned the game of real estate, I'm not necessarily trying to teach you the game of owning a restaurant. So that part of my relationship, our relationship, I've gotten you to the place where I'm supposed to get you, right? This is what I was called to do in your life. This was my role in your life, was to get you to this particular point. So I think sometimes organically it happens because the person reaches a place and it's like, I recognize that this is where I was supposed to lead you. So I think there are unique ways in approaching that when you are the mentor and kind of understanding. It's like, you got it.
Yeah,
you got it.
I think.
No, go ahead. No.
I was just gonna say it's. We talked about pride before, right? Like why people can't let go, why people make certain decisions. I've got two guys like off the top of my head that I am not necessarily their mentor, right? Like I'm just older than they are, and I think I've got a little bit more experience under my belt. But they probably have the trajectory to go further than I did. I think it's really important in general, but especially in our community, to like, push, have them go further.
You want them to go further.
You want them to go. You have to want, like, I want them to
go further than me.
Wave. That's the point of this, is sharing knowledge, pushing up. And I feel like so many times there's, for lack of a better phrasing, a jealousy or an envy or some sort of, like you said, insecurity where it's like, well, dang, if I had that, it was easier for him and it's like, nah, bro, like just help the young guys. Like you saw something in that person, like give them everything you can, push those guys as far as you can, man.
I honestly believe that should be the core purpose that a mentor says, I'll be your mentor.
I want you to be better than me.
I want you to be better. I made some mistakes. There's some things I did wrong that I'm going to help you navigate. If you are a mentor and you are intimidated by the potential of the mentee, then you are not their mentor.
Yes.
Because the minute that person starts to soar, you're going to sabotage.
Yes.
You're going to sabotage. Because now you're saying that this person that you've had some type of control over, they looked up to you, they fed your ego. Now you're saying this person started to kind of spread their wings a little bit. And now you want to, hey, slow down. I don't think you. So now you are somehow sabotaging this relationship because you're saying this person has the potential to be much greater than you. And for me, as I've been a mentor, one of the things I tell people is that I've made some mistakes. And one of the biggest things I tell people is, listen, I need you to get this before I got it. There's some things I learned late in life. So if I'm 15, 20 years your senior, that means you should be light years ahead of me by the time you're my age. And that's what I want to see. And anyone who calls me their mentor, I want to see you excel well beyond anything I've ever been able to accomplish.
For sure.
In this moment, from what you said, the passion with which the both of you just said what you said, because you took it up a notch, Moses, when you got the mic back.
When I got the mic back,
and I feel like you stood on the shoulders of Stu, because what he said was a little nicer. But I'm gonna take a little bit further. I'm gonna speak directly to any person who is showing that they have a mentee that you want to manipulate. If you have a mentee who you want to control, or you have someone who looks up to you and you want to define what the outcome of their life should be, and you know better than them what's should be for them versus them discovering it through the path that you walk with them. I'm going to give you a word, and I don't want you to forget it. We're going to call it toxic mentorship. You cannot live as a toxic mentor and expect to have positive outcomes in your own life. There are principles to this thing. What you sow, you will reap. It is essential for our next generation that toxic mentors identify themselves and look to say, maybe I need therapy before I mentor somebody. I may be 20, 30 years in the game on this. I may have information, but if it's filtered through toxic principles and toxic habits, you might as well keep it for yourself, buddy. All right, so we're going to keep this thing rolling.
And see, that's why that's y'all having to redact and stuff.
Wait, or that might be redacted later?
No, I don't know.
What you saying?
No.
I stand on that. 10 toes down.
I hear you. 10 toes down
on that.
I'm with it.
But it's so necessary, right? Because we have a generation who are scared to be mentored because there's been so many toxic mentors in the past. So I don't want to trust myself to someone who knows more or be. One of the hardest things that I have as an administrator is to get a student or a person that I meet to recognize that they can trust me because they've been in situations where they couldn't trust someone for so long. So much of my time is built on showing and proving, which sometimes I don't have that amount of time to build. So it would be a faster path if this student's soccer coach was not a toxic mentor, if this person's teacher was not a toxic mentor. And let me be clear, everybody is not toxic, but we all know someone who is toxic. And if we don't, that person is probably you. So once again, check yourself, boo-boo.
You might have to redact that one. I don't know.
That's right. I saw it coming.
We talking heavy. But listen, once again, I'm going to give y'all a frame. Y'all are connected to this. So if there's a redaction, all three of us is on that because Moses stood on your shoulders and I stood on his. But look, we're gonna begin to land the plane, y'all. We've been having a good time. And I want to. Did you have something you want to say on that real quick? All right, you pointed. So I was like, I didn't know if that was a cue.
That was like, hey,
it's on you.
Yeah, you got it. Hey, he cooking.
Cooking in fish grease.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're gonna have to redact that. Redaction is actually going to be the title of this session. It's gonna have to be redaction.
That's fair.
Because that word has been used, I think, way too much.
The subtitle.
But I think all of this comes together, right? When we're talking about vision, because it's the intersection of mentorship and vision. And we talked a lot about the negative sides of mentorship and helping people to kind of frame themselves as mentors or mentees on both sides of a bad relationship. But because we kind of understand what positive mentorship looks like already, I want us to talk about bridging that toward vision, like not just seeing vision, but experiencing the potential of vision with mentorship. Because vision is so often a siloed experience where you feel like, man, I'm the only person who has walked this path. But most situations that we face, there's somebody who's walked it before us. You know, there's nothing new under the sun. But oftentimes we don't have the luxury of having someone that's been there walking us through it. Think of any situation that we've been through, whether, let's say, a bad breakup, right? You can feel like, man, the whole world cannot understand what it feels like. But is that actually true?
Right.
No,
it's not.
Right? Yeah. There's some people who may have been through losing a job, right? You could feel completely isolated in that experience. But is there somebody who has lost a job, but yet has still emerged a successful business owner, professional? Absolutely. Even when it comes to class, let's take it through the perspective of students. People have been in these same classes that you're struggling with, right? Whether it's a class where you have to study a different way, research a different way, or it's not your wheelhouse or preferred class, and you're struggling and you can feel isolated. But that's literally what tutors are made of. People who are institutionally, structurally set up to be a mentor to you academically to help you get through to the next level. How do we identify a mentor that is prepared to support us toward vision?
What you got? Listen, I'm processing it like as you're talking.
Yeah. And let me say this as an anecdote. So these conversations that we have are so organic. That's why I love that moment, because I never want our conversations to feel scripted, right? The people who come into these spaces, the people who come into these spaces, they have the right stuff. They've lived this, they've worked through this. But sometimes I think when we have educational spaces, like podcasts are real, right? Educational podcasts can sometimes come off a little a little stiff sometimes, right?
That's fair.
And sometimes it comes from, I already knew what I was prepared. I was prepared for that answer, right? I want to hear what comes from you when you heard that.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds obvious, I guess, but it's really what you talked about, is shared experiences. Like, I think that's what you should be looking for, is this is somebody, like we talked about what it looks like if I don't want that mentor. It's like, well, I don't want to be you. It's like, oh, I recognize this thing. That's value in whenever I get to your place, or even if your mentor is younger, if it's not that age, maybe it's that role where, I'd like to do it like that. I think for me personally, I look at coaches, especially men of faith, that are able to, I don't like the guys that are always, yelling and screaming, mostly because we ask our players.
Show us yelling and screaming again.
you know what it looks like.
All right, cool. Got a little praise dance.
But we ask our players to be poised, right, and mature, emotionally stable. I know I ask my guys to be that. And so it's like, well, if you're asking them to be that, why wouldn't you be that on the sideline? So I try to be that example when I'm there. But I also, when I'm looking at coaches, like, I also want guys that can relate to their guys, but also still be kind of, I'll never forget, there was a guy, I'm forgetting his name, Bill Peterson, I think is his name. He's in college, or maybe in the NBA somewhere, still coaching. But he was a coach at Colorado State. This was probably 25 years ago. And the way the guys talked about him, right? Like, he was this little white dude, but he kind of walked softly, carried a big stick. And the guys knew, like, if I need help with something, that's the guy I go to. But if I get in trouble, he's also the guy that's going to, like, lay the smack down on me. And so I've tried to find my version of that. And I think I've done a decent job. I think my players would be the people who could tell you how good of a job of that I've done. But I think what you're looking for is people you would like to be. That's how I would look. When I'm looking at guys who, like, I would love to be that person. Not necessarily in that role, but I want to be that type of person. Because I think with sports, it's about winning and losing most of the time. Right. And I think, not to call any names, but there's a certain coach out there who behaves very immaturely. And there's a dialogue about it, but I shake my head, because it's like you're supposed to be developing men. And I often ask people, even in our current political climate, like, okay, politics aside, would you want your son or daughter or whoever to behave like this person when they become an adult? And if the answer is no, like, why would you support that ideology? Absolutely. You know what I'm saying? So that's just, I hope that was.
No. It is. And just to tie it up before I pass it over to Moses, I'm really hearing from you that there has to be a practical sense of humility from the person who needs a mentor toward vision.
For sure.
Because oftentimes, like I said, the trauma, the pursuit can make you feel like you're going in a path on your own. But there's nothing that you can accomplish on this earth that someone else hasn't already done in some way. So it's almost this awareness that you have to center yourself with, that in this universe that is so big, and I'm literally one speck of matter in this world that's in a universe, that's in a galaxy. I'm not into the stars and stuff, so I might be saying it backwards, but in the grand scheme of things, we are so minuscule that there's always something bigger than us, right? So no matter how much vision we have within us, there is someone that has some iteration of what we see ahead of us in them already accomplished. And us being humble enough, and I even appreciate your approach of pursuing who those people are, but the fact that practically you can accomplish that through many ways that people didn't have access to just 20 years ago. You have podcasts where you can hear the minds of people that have done things successfully. You have YouTube channels. You even can follow some people on Instagram or TikTok, and they will tell you what they're doing and walk you through their day to day. So don't always look at, these platforms and take it for granted because it's available. Me growing up in an environment where I couldn't see, like, Jay-Z is big now, but when I was growing up, you didn't know what Jay-Z was doing unless it was on BET or if it was in a magazine.
Right.
That was it, because nobody else was talking about it. Now, you have so much access where you literally don't need to have lunch with Jay-Z because there's so much canned messages about him. That was a conversation before, right?
Take the money. Don't ever take the meal with Jay-Z.
So for those who may not have been tapped in, there was this thing before, right? Would you take $25,000 or $50,000.
It was saying like $150.
$150,000
different ones out there.
or lunch with Jay-Z. I'll just follow him on Instagram.
Yeah.
Right.
Give me that 150 and I'll figure it out every time.
Or not follow him. I don't know. That's
some people say,
for the record, I don't follow him now.
I'll have lunch with him for the information. Well, he might not share it.
Right.
So you just spent that hour lunch with Jay-Z and all y'all talked about was, basketball.
Yeah,
so
right.
his company. So it's like, but
that's a little bit of a left turn, but I get the point. Moses, what were your thoughts on that?
So for me, man, I believe when trying to identify a mentor
towards vision,
I'm looking for authenticity, and I'm looking for transparency.
Yeah.
For me, it's about who the person is first. Like, who is this individual first? So people who are authentic, they are genuine, they're transparent, can give us a little bit more insight to the who. Who the person is. And so when I'm approaching, if I'm approaching that, that's where I'm coming from first. And then relatability. Right? Can you relate to my vision?
Yeah.
Right? Can you relate to where I want to go in life, where I'm trying to go in life, and how I'm perceiving in life? Are you able to relate? And so for me, it's because if you're with someone who can't relate to you or your journey, it's really hard. And I'm not saying just because people they haven't walked the same path, you can't help me, support me. What I'm saying is that when you talk about that relationship, and as it relates to vision, I personally believe that relatability is critical. That person is able to see where you are, can relate to where you are, and also be vulnerable and transparent, right? Because that's where that trust kind of develops in that relationship. So for me, I'm looking for those characteristics within the individuals because I think it's important.
Nice.
I know we landed in a plane, but I
Yeah,
gotta run
we
to
are.
the bathroom real quick with this question.
Okay.
Can
I thought you were going to the bathroom.
figuratively speaking.
Yeah.
When you say vision, right? Like, I think a lot of times we use certain terms, like even with my team right now, they talk about like brotherhood and family and things like that, but they're relatively subjective terms. When you say vision, or when y'all say vision, like what does that mean? I think mentorship is pretty cut and dry, but like when you say vision, what does that mean to you?
Yeah. So vision is the greatest desirable outcome that you can see for your life.
Okay.
That was smooth. I ain't gonna lie to you.
Yeah,
that wasn't even scripted. That was smooth right there.
throw that
was
thing
smooth.
up.
Yeah.
Hey, listen, like I said, if it's in you, it's in you. Leaders lead.
Yeah.
That was smooth.
But I think that oftentimes that's why that's why I'm so intentional about speaking about vision and intersecting vision in, because our youth, our generation, forget youth, our adults are so engaged with everyone else's iterations of vision and purpose that we forget that each of us has vision within us, but it's hard to see because we're always comparing it to other people's expression. That's a whole nother podcast, though.
Can you define it one more time? Because it was
vision.
You got to tell them. You got to tell them what.
So this is, I don't know if you could look this up on Merriam-Webster, but this is the Terrence Jones iteration of vision on the spot. Terrence Webster?
Merriam-Webster.
I have to do some research first and find out the history of Merriam-Webster and what them names mean before I align myself.
No.
You know, I'm a researcher.
This is yours. No.
But it's the internal, the greatest perceived outcome that you can imagine and see for your life. That's vision.
Okay.
And the beautiful thing about vision, and I'll leave this as the close to this particular session, is that your vision has the opportunity to be impressed upon, suffocated, but it also has the opportunity to expand. And I hope that today you have an expanded perspective of what your vision can be and what your vision should be in collaboration with a positive and adequate mentor. Today we had Moses Parker, we have Stu Pradia, and myself here today talking about these principles. And I can guarantee you that if you listen to this and reflect on what we said, jokes and all, that there is something that you can take that should cause your vision to expand and for your life to be a little bit brighter than it was before you listen to this podcast. Thank you for joining us today. And until next time, peace.